Hi. One of my favorite things in stories is when an outside character can kind of interrogate what's going on in the story. For example, like in More Than Meets the Eye, he did a lot of horrible stuff, but Getaway kind of had a point when he's questioning everyone's willingness to let Megatron kind of off the hook. In John Barber's Optimus Prime, there's characters like Pyra Magna and Aileron who are kind of interrogating the idea of the hero worship of Optimus Prime and the mythology of that. What I've noticed is a lot of fans turn against those characters when they start to not take for granted what they've been given in the story. When those characters start to say, hey, maybe we need to re-examine this, fans turn against those characters. My question as writers is, why do you think that happens, and is there a way to write a character who's questioning some of the preconceptions of the book in a way that kind of protects that character, keeps the sympathy of the audience with that character?
I mean, I guess the first, a rhetorical counter question is, maybe you don't want to retain that sympathy. Maybe it's quite good that ideally the audience would question themselves as to why they've taken against that person. I think so. You mentioned Getaway in More Than Meets the Eye. What fascinates me about all sort of ensemble storytelling is how, and if you're following the adventures or the trials and tribulations of a set group of characters, particularly when there's a larger setting, so these group of characters has been privileged, sort of authorial privilege says, okay, you're going to follow these guys, and it's really easy to forget that there's a wider world. I mean, it's quite, particularly when there's an arbitrary selection of characters like in More Than Meets the Eye. I mean, the main cast they're not all the officers. They're just a ragtag bunch of people. And the only reason you're following that particular combination of characters is because of me or whoever's writing it. So it is instructive, I think, and dramatically useful and interesting, if done well, for an outsider, as you say, to come in and to encourage the readers who have got very used to this nice, comfy sort of situation, encourage the readers to look at these people from the outside. There was a really good episode, actually, of Community, which I've referenced in the book, which does the same thing. And you're sort of to use that as an example, you're used to these sort of 7 or 8 characters and their sort of foibles. And then there's an episode, I think it's a wedding, and they're invited to the wedding, and you see just how horrific they are from everyone else's perspective, But you've learned to sort of, you forgive them all these failings because they're your main characters, and you look at it through a different prism and think, actually, you know what? That they're not very nice people. And similarly, I'm not saying the main cast of Lost Light are unlikable, but some of them are. But Getaway. What was interesting for me, sort of from a distance, seeing people's reaction to it, was when you had sort of Getaway was right or Getaway had a point contingent who were hopefully questioning their biases. Really, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's certainly an interesting storytelling device to stop people getting too comfortable with the people that they're used to following.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I read a book by a guy named Derek Thompson called Hit Makers. It's influenced my thinking on everything recently. And that is, what you want to do with any story is 1/3 of it is old. In other words, if I'm reading a Transformer story, at some point I have to be grounded in something I recognize to be Transformers. If we're doing the Soda Shop Transformers and our big characters are Blendo and Bun Burner, then I've got to ground it in something familiar to Transformers. So it's 1/3 of it's old, 1/3 of it's just better. You're telling us something about the world or something about the characters, and then 1/3 of it is new. Because people have a very mixed reaction to new. And if you break something, especially something associated with people's childhoods, I've been living with this for many decades now. They don't tend to like it, and they resist it. I remember it was Frank that told me one time, he had a great phrase. There was this comic they were trying to release, and the whole plan was to make it so offensive and obnoxious that preachers would complain about it in the 80s, and that was their marketing plan, right, just to create controversy. And it didn't work. And I asked Frank, why didn't that work? It was really offensive. And he said, because nobody cared. He said, you go out and dent the Batmobile and people are going to get mad. And that led to the don't dent the Batmobile rule. And because dent the Batmobile, that's hitting at the hardcore somebody's childhood. You go do something outrageously new and all that, and people don't have a box to put that in. They're not connected to it. So if you're approaching Transformers, you start with something familiar. You then enhance, and you always try to leave something with the franchise, that wasn't there before, and then you do something new. but you balance those things so that it all, does that make any sense, what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Thank you.